Hello, back again to do another video. Today's video is going to be regarding this flashlight, but instead of it just being a regular unboxing and review video like I normally do, this video is going to serve somewhat as a follow-up to a previous video I did when I reviewed this here. This is the Lumen Top Tool AA 2.0 Titanium. And so this is the light I've been carrying. I really enjoy carrying it. It's a really bright light and it just looks great on top of it. However, I did meet somebody and we got talking about lights. This was on my pocket, and they said, "Oh, that's a really cool light there. You know, how much did that run you?" And I said, $60. And they went, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, $60? That's a little steep for just a carry-on-you pocket flashlight." Okay, but that got me to thinking. If this would be conceived a little too much, how low could I get the price and get a flashlight that still works? And that's where this came up. So this flashlight, as you can see, is branded as Pocketman. I'll be frank with you, I've seen this flashlight with many different names written there, so I think they kind of have this design and people just plaster their name on it. So I did have this imported, but you can get it here. Just go to that popular online shopping site, you know the name, and you'll probably see this. Whatever brand's here, who cares? It's basically the same flashlight. And yeah, these normally are, you can get them single, but if you buy them in like a pack of 6 or more, usually you can get price per light to be around that $3 mark. You might even get it a little lower, but I've seen about like $3.33 per light, you know. Anyway, so I guess for $3.33 or there around, just what are you left with as far as a flashlight? And that's what this video is going to be about. Alright, so here is the spec list. From when I imported this was the literature they had. I just kind of copied and pasted on this piece of paper. Alright, so here we go. I'll just kind of pan this up. Alright, so this 2000 lumens max, this is, I'm assuming, if you use a higher performance battery. I'll go into batteries in a bit, just to let you know about that. Alright, so then, okay. Alright, and then here are the specs. Okay, so, and then you can see there, I went ahead and weighed it without the battery, and I got 38 grams there. So, okay, alright, so let's talk about batteries. Mine didn't come with a battery, but of course, you know, it's a AA, so yeah, they're easy to find. But now, speaking of what kind of AA you're going to use, and what one I used for this video in this flashlight is, I would say, kind of a bulk buy AA alkaline battery. So I never in any of my devices go under an alkaline as far as quality. Now, you might say, hey, well, if you really wanted it to be bright and show what it could do, why don't you use something like these here? So I do have a pack of these Energizer Advanced Lithiums, and you see more power. But I opted not to use these for this video because, again, we're trying to kind of keep this budget, and I know a lot of people are not going to go ahead and use this, especially when they're trying to kind of be on the thrifty side. Alright, so yes, I'm going to show you actual video of using the light and just to show you how bright it is. However, I do like to get actual objective numbers, so here we are. This is a test I ran with the Pocketman flashlight, and you can see that I did my kind of standard test, which is the flashlight being 2 feet away from my lux meter, and you can see it was a perpendicular shot, so it's hitting it broadside, and the target, the sensor is 7/8 inch in diameter, and you can see the two different, for the, by the way, the Pocketman has modes. It has a high, a low, and then a strobe mode. So for high brightness, you see the lux reading there, and for low, you see the lux reading there. And of course, I used a fresh AA alkaline battery. Okay. Alright, so let's do a quick overview of the light and its functions and all that. So, alright, so first of all, here's the pants clip, or pocket clip. Yes, it is metal. It's held in by those two right there. Okay, then here we go. We have some of these for heat dissipation, and that is all the way around the light. Okay, now let's look at the business end here, the actual bulb. So first of all, you can see that lens, that very obvious convex lens, right? Okay, and then there is the LED. There's a reflector cup, obviously. We have these three little prongs here, and well, yeah, I wouldn't really classify these as a strike bezel because since the if you look here, the lens goes almost up to the exact height of these prongs. So if you actually do try to use this as a striking implement, the lens is gonna basically flush up, so these won't go in very far to the person you're trying to strike. Maybe if the lens blows into the flashlight, but then again, now we're talking about breaking it. So yeah, it's not meant to work that way. So anyway, just keep that in mind. These basically are just more to protect this if you set the lens, or set the flashlight on the floor or whatever. Okay, so going over, should show you this, the whole zoom feature. This does stretch out. So when it's like this, it's wide mode, and then when you extend it, it zooms. And of course, I'll show you that in effect later. And then, okay, go over to the button. You have a big orange button on the back. Push it all the way in to activate, and then you can push it halfway in and release to change modes. And again, there's the three modes: strobe, low, and high. All right, and just for being thorough, I'll go ahead and open up the light here and show you inside. Okay. So here you are, here's the back, there's a spring. There does appear to be like an O-ring here. Yeah, that is an O-ring. It's kind of, stuck to the top. But anyway, so there's a ring there, an O-ring, a gasket, and then inside, there you go. So you can see it is the threads, and those threads are, they're metal. So yeah, of course, this whole thing's aluminum. So anyway, so now you've seen it. So alright, so we're going to go ahead and start doing the test now. And I just like to point out something that makes this video different than all my other videos, and that is to say that I'm actually going to be hard on this. Almost in every video I do, I'm very, especially since they're my personal items, I'm very I baby them, so I'm very cautious and gentle with them. However, for this video, it's going to be different because we're actually going to put this through the paces. So for those that like that, this will probably be more up your alley. Alright, so before we get to the torture tests, I got to address two of the big weak points on this flashlight. And so we'll start. First one is related to the flashlight's coolest feature, unfortunately, and that is its ability to zoom. So you saw how bright this was able to get when I zoomed and focused in that light. However, again, it also exploits probably one of its biggest weaknesses, and that is, I'll demonstrate here. So I'm just holding the cap here, and I'm going to lightly, pull and push on the body of the flashlight. You can see how much play there is. Another way to look at it is hold the body steady and wiggle the cap. Wow, it's even more prominent when you see it this way. Yeah, and keep in mind, I'm being very gentle. I'm not, and even with light, I wouldn't even say force, even with light manipulation, look at how much this thing wobbles. So my guess is that this is a tube in a tube, basically, and this tube at the narrower part right there, at the very end, it must have a slightly wider rim to stop this from just literally sliding off and falling off the end there. So, so how am I going to remedy it? Well, simple. I'm going to close it up. So I'm going to unzoom it, and I'm going to electrical tape it shut. And yes, I know, I am making modifications to the flashlight. Therefore, my torture tests won't be testing the flashlight as is. They'll be testing it with modifications meant to make the flashlight last longer through the tests. I completely agree with you on that. Yes. However, my justification for doing the electrical tape one is, I would never carry the flashlight like this. I would always have it compacted up. And if I ever did use the zoom, I would use it and immediately return the flashlight to this position. So, yeah. And I'll be honest, if I was going to use this as a daily, this electrical tape thing I'm going to do would be the first thing I'd do. So, all right, second point of weakness comes up to this big lens here. I mean, I like a big lens, and yeah, it looks pretty and all that, but the problem is there's no shelf on here. So what I mean is, well, I mean, there might be a very slight shelf, but it's not big enough. Okay, what am I talking about? So the lens goes basically to the total outer diameter of, well, the bezel. And there's nothing really holding it from being pushed in. So there's no perch. And because of that, I can see this lens being popped in really easy. Of course, it would probably pop in and then fall out this way. I mean, but still, you get the point. The lens would fall out of the flashlight. So to help with that, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go make a really small bead of super glue around the edge of the lens. Might not look as pretty as it does now, but it should give the flashlight a considerable amount of more durability. So we're going to do that too. All right, so I got finished doing the electrical tape deal. Again, I went ahead and compacted this up as much as possible to the unzoomed position and locked it up with the electrical tape. I left this here to show you how I put on the electrical tape, so you can see the width of the electrical tape from here to here. Now, if I'm trying to lock this to this, common sense would be to put half the tape over here, half the tape over here. And you can see I did not do it that way. Reason is I did not want to cover these heat dissipating fins, so I put the majority of the tape on the sliding head portion. However, if you noticed here, or you can go back in the video before I put this on and see, but there's kind of like, there's a version of this here, this collar, and there's another one over here. This one's scalloped, so it makes the tape grip even better, but I do not believe I covered any of the actual heat dissipating fins, so they're still available to do their job. Alright, one more thing, talking about the lens. I did attempt to secure the lens. It isn't pretty, but I'll show it to you here. Yeah, there it is. So all that goop you're seeing in there is silicone, clear silicone. And yeah, it doesn't look great. I suppose if you wanted to spend some more time and be more careful than I was, you could make this look a lot prettier. I just kind of went for it. And again, I'm not going to spend too much time with it because I don't think most people really are going to go this far or invest the time to do it pretty. However, there was a simpler way of doing this, which would look a lot better, and that was using super glue. And I did try that, but it was actually worse because the fumes from the super glue turn the lens and they haze it, and you cannot get that haze out. So then the lens is basically opaque and not much light comes through, defeating the purpose. So super glue and plastic lenses do not go together. Don't waste your flashlight. I already did that for you. It doesn't turn out well. Alright, so the first test is going to be the submerging in water. So here I have a jar of water. It's, I would say, cooler than room temperature as far as the water goes. Just to show you, this is actually water in here. See it? Alright, so this should completely submerge the flashlight, and I am going to go ahead and leave it in actually on. I'm going to put it in strobe mode here. So there we go. So yeah, flashing light warning if that affects you. So here we go. I'll face it this way so it doesn't blind you. Anyway, here we go. Alright, I'll leave it in there for a minute. So, alright, here we go. Okay, that's a minute. Let me go ahead and retrieve this thing. Okay. Go ahead and take a look at it. Okay, now I'll dry it off. Okay, so looks good so far. Got some water there. All right, in the front, the lens. All right, so far so good. Make sure it still works. Okay, all the modes are working. And now I'm going to go ahead and open it up and make sure no water got inside. Alright, so I just opened it up. Yep, no water got inside. In there it's nice and dry. Battery's dry. The switch, if you see on the inside here, it's also dry. So there's some little water drops in between that orange button and the outer ring there. But I mean, yeah, that's just could be dabbed up, no problem. And as far as the I have some water drops in between these fins, but again, that affects nothing. It's still on the outside. And I'll just go ahead and floss a piece of paper towel through there to clean those up. But again, it affects nothing. And then over here on the lens, no water got in there either, which I was actually pretty surprised. Maybe the silicone is doing its job. So, alright, so passed the water test, no problem. On to the next test. Alright, so on to the second test, which is the freeze test. Yes, I'm going to throw this in the freezer and leave it in there. How long? I haven't determined that yet because I'm not really sure how long it's going to take for this thing to get nice and cold. I assume not too long, but anyway, so I'll let you know how long I leave it in there when I pull it out. But before we put it in, I'm going to go take a temperature using this contactless thermometer. I believe this is infrared. Anyway, so I'll go ahead and take a couple readings of it before we put it in the freezer, and of course when it comes out. Now, keep in mind though, I am doing this test after the water test. So when I said I wasn't pulling punches on doing the tests on this thing, that's a good example right there. Doing a freeze test right after a water test will really drive home if it did in fact fail the water test. Of course, because water gets inside, freezes, expands, and breaks up any electronics that it happens to be next to when it freezes. So we'll see. Anyway, so let's go ahead and take some temperatures here. So, boop. Let's see. The first one, 89. Yeah, it makes sense. I'm holding the thing, right? We'll see. Take a temperature out there. 86. And then I'll just take one back here on this rubber part. And 82. So they're all in the 80s. So, okay. I'm going to go ahead and put it in the freezer now. Alright, so it's been 4 hours and 12 minutes in the freezer. Let's see what we have for temperature. Okay, surface temperature 49.5. Okay, on that frosty looking part there. 46.0. Okay, let's look at the front here, the lens. Well, as you'd expect, it's quite frosty. You can't even see the LED through that frost on the lens. Right, so here, let's give it a shot, see what happens. It works. Alright, so for the last few minutes I've just been squeezing it dry and kind of warming it with a paper towel in my hand. And so this is the state the flashlight's in. And we can see the lens has returned to the point where you can at least see the LED in there. So, yep. Alright, so we're going to do the drop test. Hard floor. Anyway, I'm going to leave it on the low mode, and I'm just going to drop it from, this is shoulder height. Okay, well, the light turned off. Okay, well, I'll have to take it apart and see what happened. Alright, so here's an update. As you can see there in the lens, there is in fact water in there.
Also, when I took it apart, I was able to shake water out of the back. How much water? I would say enough that you would probably want to wipe off your hand, but not drenched by any means. But all right, so what appears to have happened is that from the submersion test and then the freeze test after, there was actually some water that got in there, and then with the drop, it shook all that water loose so that we can see it here. And of course the stuff that I cleaned out of the back. So I have cleaned it out and dried it, but you can see that it's not turning back on. I did get a quick glimpse of it briefly turning on, but then it cut out again, and that only happened 2 times, and now it won't even do that anymore. So yeah, oh, did you see it? Wait a minute. Oh, look at that. Okay. What? It's back to life. Alright, let me investigate some more.
Alright, so update, the flashlight is back to not working. So it was working fine, and then one time I went to go use it and click the button, nothing happened. I did one of those and it worked, but as you can see, even doing that now doesn't do anything. So I guess it's kaput finally. Alright, so let's go and quick recap of what was done to this flashlight. First we did the submersion test for a minute. It worked after that. Then I did the freeze test, put it in the freezer for 4+ hours. I think it was like 4 hours and 12 minutes or something. It did work after that. Then I pretty much went a full work day with it just clipped to my pants. So as you saw, I dried it off, I warmed it up and whatnot. Then I put it on my pants, went through a whole work day. It was fine. And then I did the drop test, and well, you saw what happened. So I can't say if it was the water, if it was the drop, if it was a combination of the two. But since we are talking about water, well, let's quickly talk about the silicone here. I could have done a better job. I'm pretty sure there are some slight little holes in between this kind of tossed on there silicone, because this isn't very uniform, as I'm sure you've noticed by now. But again, this is something that I did in addition. It was not the flashlight how it came. So if this failed or helped, it kind of is a side note, because again, the flashlight does not come with this, and it doesn't tell you that you need to do this. All right, I wouldn't make this my sole flashlight source, because well, you saw what happened. But for the money, it works, but it's just, it needs to be a backup, but not your primary. So maybe that other flashlight I showed earlier is the better buy.